Great Wall of China, Chinese, Pinyin, Wanli Changchang or Wei Giles romanization, Wanli Chang, 10,000 Li Long Wall, extensive bulwark erected in ancient China, one of the largest building construction projects ever undertaken. The Great Wall actually consists of numerous walls, many of them parallel to each other, built over some 2 millennia across northern China and southern Mongolia. The most extensive and best preserved version of the wall dates from the Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644, and runs for some 5,500 miles, 8,850 kilometers east to west from Mount Hu near Dandong, southeastern Liaoning Province, to Jiayu Pass west of Jiuquan, northwestern Gansu Province. This wall often traces the crest lines of hills and mountains as it snakes across the Chinese countryside, and about 1/4 of its length consists solely of natural barriers such as rivers and mountain ridges. Nearly all of the rest, about 70% of the total length, is actual constructed wall, with the small remaining stretches constituting ditches or moats. Although lengthy sections of the wall are now in ruins or have disappeared completely, it is still one of the more remarkable structures on Earth. The Great Wall was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1987. Large parts of the fortification system date from the 7th through the 4th century BCE. In the 3rd century BCE, Xuandi, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a united China, under the Qin dynasty, connected a number of existing defensive walls into a single system. Traditionally, the eastern terminus of the wall was considered to be Shanhai Pass, Shanhaiguan, in eastern Hebei province along the coast of the Bohai Gulf of Chile, and the wall's length, without its branches and other secondary sections, was thought to extend for some 4,160 miles, 6,700 kilometers. However, government-sponsored investigations that began in the 1990s revealed sections of wall in Liaoning, and aerial and satellite surveillance eventually proved that this wall stretched continuously through much of the province. The greater total length of the Ming Wall was announced in 2009. History of construction. The Great Wall developed from the disparate border fortifications and castles of individual Chinese kingdoms. For several centuries, these kingdoms probably were as concerned with protection from their near neighbors as they were with the threat of barbarian invasions or raids. Early building. About the 7th century BCE, the state of Chu started to construct a permanent defensive system. Known as the Square Wall, this fortification was situated in the northern part of the kingdom's capital province. From the 6th to the 4th century, other states followed Chu's example. In the southern part of the Qi state, an extensive perimeter wall was gradually created using existing river dikes, newly constructed bulwarks, and areas of impassable mountain terrain. The Qi wall was made mainly of earth and stone and terminated at the shores of the Yellow Sea. In the Zhongshan state, a wall system was built to thwart invasion from the states of Zhao and Qin in the southwest. There were 2 defensive lines in the Wei state, the Heshi, west of the Yellow River, and Hunan, south of the river, walls. The Heshi wall was a fortification against the Qin state and western nomads. Built during the reign of King Hui, 370 to 335 BCE, it was expanded from the dikes on the Luo River on the western border. It started in the south near Xianyuan Cave, east of Mount Hua, and ended at Guyong in what is now the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. Hunan Wall, built to protect Dalian, the capital, now Kaifeng, was repaired and extended in King Hui's later years. The Zhang state also built a wall system, which was rebuilt by the Han state after it conquered Zhang. The state of Zhao completed a southern wall and a northern wall. The southern wall was built mainly as a defense against the Wei state. After administrative reorganization was carried out by Shang Yang, died 338 BCE, the Qin state grew politically and militarily to become the strongest among the 7 states, but it was frequently raided by the Donghu and Lufan, 2 nomadic peoples from the north. Therefore, the Qin erected a wall that started from Lintiao, went north along the Lupan Mountains, and ended at the Huanghe Yellow River. In the Yen state, two separate defensive lines were prepared, the Northern Wall and the Ishui Wall, in an effort to defend the kingdom from attacks by northern groups such as the Donghu, Linhu, and Lufan, as well as by the Qi state in the south. The Ishui Wall was expanded from the dike of the Yi River as a defense line against Qi and Zhao, its two main rival states. It began southwest of East City, the capital, and ended south of Wunan. In 290 BCE, the Yen state built the northern wall along the Yen Mountains, starting from the northeast in the area of Zhangjiago and Hebei, passing over the Liao River, and extending to the ancient city of Xiangping, modern Liaoyang. This was the last segment of the Great Wall to be erected during the Zhongguo, Warring States, period. In 221 BCE, Xuandi, the first Qin emperor, completed his annexation of Qi and thus unified China. He ordered removal of the fortifications set up between the previous states because they served only as obstacles to internal movements and administration. In addition, he sent General Meng Tian to garrison the northern border against incursions of the nomadic Xiongnu and to link the existing wall segments in Qin, Yen, and Zhao into the so-called 10,000 li long wall, 2 li equal approximately 0.6 mile, 1 kilometer. This period of construction began about 214 BCE and lasted a decade. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers and conscripted workers labored on the project. With the fall of the Qin dynasty after Xuandi's death, however, the wall was left largely ungarrisoned and fell into disrepair. The Han through Yuan dynasties. During the reign of the Han Emperor Wudi, 141 to 87 BCE, the wall was strengthened as part of an overall campaign against the Xiongnu. From that period, the Great Wall also contributed to the exploitation of farmland in northern and western China and to the growth of the trade route that came to be known as the Silk Road. In 121 BC, a 20-year project of construction was started on the Heshi Wall, generally known as the Side Wall, between Yongdang, now in Gansu, in the east, and Lake Lop-Nur, now in Xinjiang, in the west. According to Juyan Hanjian, Juyan correspondence of the Han, the strong points set up along the wall included a beacon every 5 li, a tower every 10 li, a fort every 30 li, and a castle every 100 li. The main work on the wall during the Dong, Eastern, Han period, 25 to 220 CE, took place during the reign of Lu Xiu, Guangwudi, who in 38 ordered the repair of 4 parallel lines of the Great Wall in the area south of the Heshi Wall. The Great Wall served not only for defense but also to centralize control of trade and travel. During the Bei, Northern, Wei dynasty, 386-534/535 CE, the Great Wall was repaired and extended as a defense against attacks from the Wanwan and Khitan tribes in the north. According to Wei Shu, Minjuandi Ji, History of Wei, Chronicle of Emperor Mingyuan, in 417, the 8th year of the reign of Minjuandi, 409 to 423, a part of the Great Wall was built south of Chanchuan, from Qicheng, now in Hebei, to Woyuan, now in Inner Mongolia, in the west, extending more than 620 miles, 1,000 kilometers. During the reign of Taiwudi, 423 to 452, a lower and thinner wall of rammed earth was built around the capital as a complement to the Great Wall. Starting from Guangling in the east, it extended to the eastern side of the Huanghe, forming a circle around Datong. In 549, after the Dongwei kingdom moved its capital east to Yi, it also built a segment of the Great Wall in the area of contemporary Shaanxi province. In order to strengthen its northern frontier and prevent invasion from the west by the Bei Zhou, the Bei Qi kingdom, 550 to 577, launched several big construction projects that were nearly as extensive in scope as the building projects of the Qin dynasty. In 552, a segment was built on the northwestern border, and only 3 years later the emperor ordered the recruitment of 1.8 million workers to repair and extend other sections. The construction took place between the south entrance of Juyang Pass, near modern Beijing, and Datong, in Shaanxi. In 556, a new fortification was set up in the east and extended to the Yellow Sea. The following year, a second wall was built inside the Great Wall within modern Shaanxi, beginning in the vicinity of Laoying east of Pianguan, extending to the east beyond Yanmen Pass and Pingxing Pass, and ending in the area around Xiaoguan in Shaanxi. In 563, the Emperor Wu Chengdi of the Bei Qi had a segment repaired along the Taihang Mountains. That is the part of the Great Wall found today in the area around Longguan, Guangchang, and Fuping, in Shaanxi and Hebei. In 565, the inner wall built in 557 was repaired, and a new wall was added that started in the vicinity of Xiaoguan, extended to the Juyang Pass in the east, and then joined to the outer wall. The segments repaired and added during the Bei Qi period totaled some 900 miles, 1,500 kilometers, and towns and barracks were established at periodic intervals to garrison the new sections. In 579, in order to prevent invasions of the Beizhou kingdom by the Tujue, a group of Eastern Turks, and the Khitan, the Emperor Jing started a massive rebuilding program on areas of the wall located in the former Bei Qi kingdom, starting at Yanmen in the west and ending at Jieshir in the east. During the Sui dynasty, 581 to 618, the Great Wall was repaired and improved 7 times in an effort to defend the country against attacks from the Tujue. After the Tang dynasty, 618 to 907, replaced the Sui, the country grew much stronger militarily, defeating the Tujue in the north and expanding beyond the original frontier. Thus, the Great Wall gradually lost its significance as a fortification, and there was no need for repairs or additions. During the Song dynasty, 960 to 1279, however, the Liao and Jin peoples in the north were a constant threat. The Song rulers were forced to withdraw to the south of the lines of the Great Wall built by the Qin, Han, and Northern dynasties. Many areas on both sides of the wall were subsequently taken over by the Liao, 907 to 1125, and Jin dynasties, 1115 to 1234. When the Song rulers had to retreat even farther to the south of the Yangtze River, Changjiang, repairs to the wall or extensions of it were no longer feasible. Limited repairs were carried out once, 1056, during Liao times, but only in the area between the Yazi and Huntong rivers. In 1115, after the Jin dynasty was established, work was performed on 2 defensive lines at Mingchang. The old wall there, previously called the Wushu Wall, or Jinyuan Fort, ran westward from a point north of Woolanhata, then wound through the Hailata Mountains, turning to the north and then to the west again, finally ending at the Nuanshui River. The second of the lines was the new Mingchan Wall, also called the Inner Jin Wall or the Jin Trench, which was constructed south of the old wall. It started in the west from a bend in the Huanghe and ended at the Sungari, Songhua, River. During the Yuan, Mongol, dynasty, 1206 to 1368, the Mongols controlled all of China, as well as other parts of Asia and sections of Europe. As a defensive structure, the Great Wall was of little significance to them. However, some forts in key areas were repaired and garrisoned in order to control commerce and to limit the threat of rebellions from the Chinese, Han, and other nationalities. The Ming Dynasty to the present. Rulers during the Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644, ceaselessly maintained and strengthened the Great Wall to prevent another Mongolian invasion. The majority of the work took place along the old walls built by the Bei Qi and Bei Wei. Most of the Great Wall that stands today is the result of work done during the reign of the Hongji Emperor, 1487 to 1505. Starting west of Juyang Pass, this part of the wall was split into south and north lines, respectively named the inner and outer walls. Along the wall were many strategic passes, i.e., fortresses, and gates. Among them were Juyong, Daioma, and Zijing passes, the 3 closest to the Ming capital Beijing. Together they were referred to as the 3 inner passes. Farther west were Yanmen, Ningwu, and Pianta passes, known as the 3 outer passes. Both the inner and outer passes were of key importance in protecting the capital and were usually heavily garrisoned. After the Qing, Manchu, dynasty, 1644-1911-12, replaced the Ming, there was a change in ruling strategy called Huairou mollification, wherein the Qing tried to pacify the leaders and peoples of Mongolia, Tibet, and other nationalities by not interfering with local social, cultural, or religious life. Because of the success of that strategy, the Great Wall was repaired less frequently, and it gradually fell into ruin. Design of the fortifications. The Great Wall had three major components: passes, signal towers, beacons, and walls. Passes. Passes were major strongholds along the wall, usually located at such key positions as intersections with trade routes. The ramparts of many passes were faced with huge bricks and stones, with dirt and crushed stones as filler. The bastions measured some 30 feet, 10 meters, high and 13 to 16 feet, 4 to 5 meters, wide at the top. Within each pass were access ramps for horses and ladders for soldiers. The outside parapet was crenellated, and the inside parapet, or yuqiang, nuqiang, was a low wall about 3 feet, 1 meter, high that prevented people and horses from falling off the top. In addition to serving as an access point for merchants and other civilians, the gate within the pass was used as an exit for the garrison to counterattack raiders or to send out patrols. Under the gate arch there was typically a huge double door of wood. Bolts and locker rings were set in the inner panel of each door. On top of each gate was a gate tower that served as a watchtower and command post. Usually it stood 1 to 3 stories, levels, high and was constructed either of wood or of bricks and wood. Built outside the gate, where an enemy was most likely to attack, was a wingqing, a semicircular or polygonal parapet that shielded the gate from direct assault. Extending beyond the most strategic wingqings was an additional line of protection, the luocheng, which was often topped by a tower used to watch those beyond the wall and to direct troop movements in battles waged there. Around the gate entrance there was often a moat that was formed in the process of digging earth to build the fortifications. Signal towers. Signal towers were also called beacons, beacon terraces, smoke mounds, or kiosks. They were used to send military communications, beacon, fires or lanterns, during the night or smoke signals in the daytime. Other methods such as raising banners, beating clappers, or firing guns were also used. Signal towers, often built on hilltops for maximum visibility, were self-contained high platforms or towers. The lower levels contained rooms for soldiers, as well as stables, sheepfolds, and storage areas. Walls. The wall itself was the key part of the defensive system. It usually stood 21.3 feet, 6.5 meters, wide at the base and 19 feet, 5.8 meters, at the top, with an average height of 23 to 26 feet, 7 to 8 meters, or a bit lower on steep hills. The structure of the wall varied from place to place, depending on the availability of building materials. Walls were made of tamped earth sandwiched between wooden boards, adobe bricks, a brick and stone mixture, rocks, or pilings and planks. Some sections made use of existing river dikes, others used rugged mountain terrain such as cliffs and gorges to take the place of man-made structures. In the western deserts the walls were often as simple structures of rammed earth and adobe. Many eastern ramparts, such as those near Badaling, were faced with stone and included a number of secondary structures and devices. On the inner side of such walls, placed at small intervals, were arched doors called wan, which were made of bricks or stones. Inside each wan were stone or brick steps leading to the top of the battlement. On the top, on the side facing outward, stood 7-foot, 2-meter, high crenels called duoku. On the upper part of the duoku were large openings used to watch and shoot at attackers, and on the lower part were small openings, or loopholes, through which defenders could also shoot. At intervals of about 650 to 1,000 feet, 200 to 300 meters, there was a crenellated platform rising slightly above the top of the wall and protruding from the side that faced attackers. During battle, the platform provided a commanding view and made it possible to shoot attackers from the side as they attempted to scale the wall with ladders. On several platforms were simply structured huts called pufong, which provided shelter for the guards during storms. Some platforms, as with signal towers, had 2 or 3 stories and could be used to store weapons and ammunition. Those at Badaling commonly had 2 stories, with accommodations for more than 10 soldiers on the lower level. There were also drainage ditches on the walls to shield them from damage by excessive rainwater. Military administration. Each major stronghold along the wall was hierarchically linked to a network of military and administrative commands. During the rule of Shawandi, 12 prefectures were established along the wall, and in the Ming period the whole fortification was divided into 9 defense areas, or zones. A post chief, zone bingwen, was assigned to each zone. Together they were known as the 9 border garrisons. Tradition and conservation. The Great Wall has long been incorporated into Chinese mythology and popular symbolism, and in the 20th century it came to be regarded as a national symbol. Above the East Gate, Dongmen, at Shanhai Pass is an inscription attributed to the medieval historian Xiao Xian, which is translated as First Pass Under Heaven, referring to the traditional division between Chinese civilization and the barbarian lands to the north. Despite the wall's cultural significance, roadways have been cut through it at several points, and vast sections have suffered centuries of neglect. In the 1970s, the segment near Simitai, 68 miles, 110 kilometers, northeast of Beijing, was dismantled for building materials, but it was subsequently rebuilt. Other areas have also been restored, including just northwest of Jiayu Pass at the western limit of the wall, at Huanya Pass, some 105 miles, 170 kilometers north of Tianjin, and at Muxianyu, about 55 miles, 90 kilometers northeast of Beijing. The best-known section, at Badaling, 43 miles, 70 kilometers northwest of Beijing, was rebuilt in the late 1950s. It now attracts thousands of national and foreign tourists every day. Portions of the wall around Shanhai Pass and at Mount Hu, the eastern terminus, also had been rebuilt by 2000.